please, bitches and hoes, don't hate. You know what I'm saying? Just congratulate. When you see me, just pat me on the back.
Shawty's sick. Seriously, Shawty's sick.
Onika Tanya Mirage Petty, aka Nicki Minaj, born December 8, 1982. In the late 2000s, a young rapper from Queens started to separate herself from the pack in a way female hip-hop hadn't seen in years. Nicki Minaj wasn't just another MC trying to blend in with the male-dominated game. She demanded space of her own. With her animated delivery, sharp punchlines, wild alter ego, and unapologetic confidence, she brought back the feeling that a female rapper could dominate not just women's rap, but rap period. Backed by Lil Wayne's Young Money machine, Nicki didn't just enter the spotlight, she owned it. Her debut, Pink Friday in 2010, went triple platinum. She became the first female rapper since Lauryn Hill to top the Billboard 200 and quickly built a reputation as the queen of hip-hop's new era. For much of the 2010s, Nicki Minaj was untouchable, but over time, that throne has started to feel less like it's held by force and more like it's held by default. In recent years, Nicki's career has been overshadowed not just by the talent of others, but by the constant feuds and controversies that seem to follow her name. Instead of headlines about her latest single or verse, much of the conversation centers around who she's beefing with online. Her feud with Cardi B, for example, dragged on for years and became less about music and more about spectacle, reducing the focus on artistry in favor of gossip and division. While Nicki still has an undeniable catalog, her newer projects haven't sparked the same excitement as her earlier career work, leaving fans divided over whether her music has grown stale or simply been drowned out by the noise. At the same time, Nicki's public image has shifted from respected rap queen to polarizing figure. Her constant presence on social media, her tendency to go after critics, and her continued embrace of hypersexualized imagery at a later stage in her career have led some to question if she's hurting her own legacy. While she's still widely respected, Nicki Minaj no longer feels like the evolution of female rap, but rather someone struggling to hold on to a throne without true challengers to test her. To understand how Nicki Minaj went from breaking barriers to defending her crown against forces often of her own making, let's first revisit where it all began, the rise and shift of Nicki Minaj's legacy. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to Twin on IG for this request. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Nicki Minaj is a rapper from Queens, New York, born into a Trinidadian household before moving to the US at age 5. Growing up in a strict but creative environment, she gravitated toward the arts early and studied acting at LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts, where her dramatic style began to take shape. By the mid-2000s, Nicki pivoted to rap, releasing a run of mixtapes that quickly built her underground reputation. Playtime is Over in 2007, Sucker Free 2008, and Beam Me Up Scotty 2009. Her distinct voices, alter egos, and animated delivery set her apart in a crowded New York scene. Lil Wayne took notice and signed her to Young Money Entertainment in 2009, placing her alongside Drake at the label's forefront. In November 2010, her debut album Pink Friday debuted at number 2 before rising to number 1, officially crowning her as hip-hop's new queen. Stunt number 1, the feud that overshadowed the music. For nearly a decade, Nicki Minaj ruled as the undisputed queen of rap. From her 2010 debut until the mid-2010s, no other female MC came close to her level of chart dominance, global tours, or cultural impact. That dominance was first tested in 2017 when Cardi B exploded onto the scene with Bodak Yellow, which became the first solo number 1 by a female rapper in nearly 20 years. What could have been a competitive but healthy moment for women in hip-hop quickly shifted into a public feud. By 2018, the tension boiled over. Subtle lyrical jabs, dismissive interviews, and fan speculation turned into a full confrontation during New York Fashion Week when Cardi attempted to fight Nicki and threw a shoe before being removed. Instead of easing the rivalry, Nicki leaned into it, using her newly launched Queen Radio platform to address Cardi directly, further fueling the spectacle and keeping the feud alive in headlines. The problem was that the music stopped being the focus. Headlines highlighted arguments, social media battles, and Queen vs. Challenger narratives more than Nicki's artistry. At a time when hip-hop was opening space for multiple women to thrive, Nicki appeared unwilling to share the spotlight. Fans who once saw her as the sole standard bearer now questioned whether she was holding the culture back instead of leading it forward. All in all, the Cardi B feud marked a turning point in Nicki Minaj's career. Though she remained commercially successful, her energy seemed redirected toward defending her throne rather than elevating her music. It left a lasting mark on her legacy, creating an image problem that still lingers years later when she should be in a mental position to only want to see hip-hop for female artists move forward. Stunt number 2, when the music stopped evolving. Nicki Minaj's rise was built on her ability to adapt to multiple sounds. On Pink Friday, she balanced polished pop hooks with sharp rap verses, and on Roman Reloaded, she expanded into dance and EDM while still delivering aggressive hip-hop records. Her versatility made her untouchable for years, proving she could dominate both the charts and the streets. But as the 2010s wore on, that musical evolution began to slow. When Queen dropped in 2018, it debuted at number 2 behind Travis Scott's Astroworld and produced hits like Chung Lee, yet the rollout was overshadowed by public disputes and a defensive tone. Critics praised her lyrical ability, but argued the album lacked cohesion. With little evidence, she was breaking new ground. The spectacle of feuds, Queen radio rants, and social media spats became bigger talking points than the music itself, leaving the project's artistry overlooked and her evolution stuck on pause. What made this more glaring was that Nicki Minaj had always been ahead of the curve. Suddenly, the same artists who once shifted the culture with animated flows and bold experimentation appeared to rely on familiar formulas. For the first time in her career, she no longer felt like the center of innovation. Her single strategy reinforced this sense of plateau. The high-profile collaboration Trolls with 6ix9ine briefly hit number 1 in 2020, but collapsed the following week in one of Billboard's steepest drops. While it gave her another milestone, the music itself didn't feel like genuine growth. All in all, Nicki Minaj's refusal or inability to reinvent her sound left the impression her artistry had stalled. In music, standing still can be just as damaging as falling off, and for Nicki, that perception began to shape how her legacy is viewed. Stunt number 3, when image overshadowed representation. From the very start, Nicki Minaj's image was as much a part of her rise as her music. The wigs, costumes, alter egos, and larger-than-life personality made her stand out in a male-dominated field. At first, this theatrical approach felt empowering. Nicki was unapologetically herself, using exaggeration and sexuality to grab attention in ways female rappers before her rarely could. But over time, the same traits that set her apart began to overshadow the artistry she worked so hard to build. By the late 2010s, critics and fans alike noticed her reputation becoming increasingly tied to spectacle. Her explicit stage performances, constant reliance on hypersexualized imagery, and combative social media presence made headlines just as much as her music did. To many, Nicki wasn't being celebrated for breaking barriers anymore, but for controversy, shock value, and public drama. What once felt like calculated performance evolved into something that appeared repetitive and even desperate. This shift carried deeper consequences. Nicki Minaj had been one of the first female rappers positioned as a global superstar, capable of shaping how women in hip-hop were perceived worldwide. Instead of moving toward more nuanced portrayals, she doubled down on sexual expression as the main driver of her brand. While some praised this as empowerment, others criticized it as reducing representation of women in rap to a narrow stereotype. The problem wasn't that Nicki used sexuality. Plenty of artists in every genre have done the same. It was that the music often took a backseat to it, with headlines focusing more on what she wore, how she moved, or what she said online than the songs themselves. In the end, when an image begins to eclipse artistry, the legacy gets clouded. For Nicki, her cultural representation became a point of contention rather than an undisputed strength. All in all, Nicki Minaj's legacy is one of both triumph and turbulence. She entered hip-hop at a time when women were barely visible at the top and forced the industry to treat her as an equal to men, dominating the charts and proving that a female MC could command global superstardom. Yet her journey also revealed how easily greatness can be complicated by distractions. Feuds consumed energy that could have gone into music. Artistic growth slowed at a stage where reinvention was expected, and her public image, once empowering, began to draw more attention than her songs. Even with these stumbles, Nicki remains one of the most impactful rappers of her generation, inspiring countless women to pick up the mic. The question is not whether she left a mark, but how her story will ultimately be remembered, by the music or the spectacle. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, her growth is being stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.